Budget Subcommittee on Tourism, Economic Development, Energy, Environment, Public Protection, and I call the second meeting to order. Please make sure our phones are on silent. At church, I always say if your phone goes off in church, you got to buy pizza. So I guess we could do that here too. Until mine was the one went off one night at church. So, all right. At this time, we'll have Spring call the roll.
Representative Gooch, Representative King,
Present.
Representative Lehman, Representative Wesley, Representative Witten, Representative Bowling, Representative Bray, Representative Petrie, Vice Chair McPherson.
Here.
Chair Fugit.
Here. All right. Thank you. We do not have a quorum, and you all let me know when the quorum comes, and we'll approve the minutes from last meeting. We still need one more, right? After Jim, after Representative Gooch. All right, so we'll get started with the presentations, and folks from the Public Protection Cabinet, if you'll come up. Department of Housing, Buildings, and Construction. Within the Public Protection Cabinet, we're going to talk about fees and licenses and certifications. And men, thank you all for being here today. When you're seated, go ahead and hit the microphone, the green button, make it real green. Introduce yourself. And before we do that, we've got a quorum now, right? I need a motion to approve the minutes from last. So moved. Have a first and second. All in favor, aye? Aye. All right. Thank you very much. All right, men, if you'll introduce yourself, make sure your microphone's on, and go ahead and get started.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Max Fuller. I'm the Commissioner of the Department of Housing, Buildings, and Construction.
I'm David Moore, Deputy Commissioner, Department of Housing, Building, and Construction. It's on.
Yeah, make sure your microphone's on.
Can you hear me?
I got you now. Thank you.
So, just to kind of frame things up, I'll start with licensing. I know I could go on for hours if we had to, but in the interest of everybody's time, we're going to try to keep it fairly short and sweet, fairly high level on licensing, and then also on inspection backlog. We have a lot of different areas that we touch at the Department of Housing, Buildings, and Construction. So we have about 50 different individual licenses that our agency issues. These range from things that most people would think of like plumbing or electrical licenses, but it also includes some things that folks don't really anticipate. Modular building manufacturers, recreational vehicle retailers, underground petroleum storage tank contractors. So we have a very diverse group of licensees that we regulate. And we have about 42,000 active licenses right now. Of those 42,000, the vast majority, about 75%, are plumbing, HVAC, and electrical licenses. So we were asked to talk about our fees and kind of how they line up with other states. So really, we're going to focus on those three: that plumbing, HVAC, and electrical, because that really does represent the majority of our licenses. It's really difficult. You don't have an apples-to-apples comparison when you look at Kentucky's licensing fees or requirements versus some of our surrounding states. A really good example of this, you look at Kentucky, you look at a plumbing license in Kentucky. Journeyman plumbing license costs $60 annually. Master plumbing license costs $250 annually. You look at a state like Virginia, they got a flat fee, $150 for a master, $150 for a journeyman. The difference, though, is in Virginia, you have to have a contractor license to go with that master plumbing license if you want to engage in plumbing work. And so that contractor license, it's tiered in Virginia. It ranges from $400 to an additional $230-something. So in Kentucky, to contract for plumbing work, you just need a master plumbing license. $250,
Covered it all.
no additional. So we also have, instances in a lot of states, Ohio, Tennessee are very good examples where they may have a state-level license, but there's also local requirements as well. So, again, we'll use this plumbing example. You look at Ohio, they have a statewide Ohio plumbing contractor license, $60. But if you go into a city like Columbus, you're looking at $150 for a plumbing license, a journeyman plumbing license, to operate in Columbus. So when you add everything up, some of the additional overhead, some of the additional licensing that you have in other states, even though on the surface some of these licenses may look a little bit less expensive in, say, Ohio or Virginia, Kentucky's right in line or a little bit below with the majority of our neighbors. There's probably one exception to that. West Virginia has a licensing system that's very similar to Kentucky. They come in a little bit lower. However, they do have some of that. I hate to call it duplicative. They just serve different purposes. They, like a lot of jurisdictions, differentiate some of the trade licensing, which those are the people out, in the field doing the work, versus the contractor licensing. So with that being said, when you account for that overhead, we're right in line or below, and you're getting with a master license or a contractor license in Kentucky, you're only having to hold and renew, keep up, maintain one set of continuing ed, one set of paperwork, one physical card or printed card. I think that's a good stopping point. If there's any questions, I'm happy to ask them or answer them.
You want to add about when the last time things were increased?
Yeah, we can talk about
Representative McPherson.
So, your level of inspectors today and everything, you say you had a backlog, are you able to meet the needs, or where you're at with?
So I'm happy. That's my next portion. If you'd like, I can just go ahead and get started on that.
That's fine.
That'd
Okay.
be good. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So we have a lot of different functions, just like we have a lot of different licenses, right? We have 5 divisions in our agency, some of which have subsections. So we have plumbing, we have HVAC, we have electrical, we have the state fire marshal, we have building code enforcement. And all of those areas, in one way or another, are experiencing either a quantifiable backlog because they have some sort of recurring inspection. Boilers is a really good example of this. Our boiler inspectors are expected to complete about 650 to 700 inspections individually per year. Right now, we're about 18% of all state jurisdiction boilers and pressure vessels in Kentucky are past due inspection. That's about 2,200 units. Now, in Jefferson County in particular, 38% of state jurisdiction objects are behind. That's 953 units. So, yes, there are backlogs in those areas. It's one of the reasons that we've reached out and submitted ABRs for boilers in particular. And in these other areas, we have maybe a different way of looking at it. We have a level of customer service that we try to offer that the construction industry has come to expect, whether that be in inspection turnaround time, plan review turnaround time, or consumer complaint enforcement, those sorts of actions. And across the board, and I'm happy to go into detail with each individual program if you all would like, but across the board what you see is, okay, we're maintaining our inspection turnaround in, say, electrical, but some of these other areas have suffered. We're not able to do license checks the way that we would like to, or we're not able to answer consumer complaints and investigate consumer complaints in as timely of a manner as we would like to. Building code enforcement is a great example as well. That's where your plan review turnaround time, everybody likes to talk about that. That is where we strive for two metrics, right? Each plan reviewer cranking out 10 reviews per week and a 30-day average turnaround time. We went from 90 days in early 2020, got down to about 30 even. But what we've noticed the past year, starting really last summer, that time's starting to creep up on average. It's not skyrocketing, but we're sitting at about 33 days, 35 days, back and forth, just depending on how many plans come in. And so what we've tried to do across the board is identify areas where we have these sorts of issues that may not necessarily be a quantifiable backlog like we have in boilers, but we notice trends where we're not going to be able to maintain 30-day turnarounds on plan reviews, same-day inspections for plumbing, 3-day inspections for HVAC.
So with that said, we've got some metrics that are looks like are probably going to take place. I'm a real estate appraiser by trade.
Yes, sir.
Build a few houses on the side. It looks like interest rates are kind of headed down.
Mm-hmm.
President's going to name a new federal person that's probably going to drive them down a little more. We're anticipating building to start ramping up some. Along with, I was on the housing task force this year. The Senate just dropped their housing bill of probably a product of a lot of what we did over the summer. Going to be possibilities of having housing projects go up in rural areas where they're not used to doing a large number, and you might not have as many inspectors. Are your all's ask, you think, adequate for ramping up to that task?
Without seeing the projections on potential residential construction increases, it's difficult to say. I will say this. For our agency, we're not doing the building inspection on like a single-family home, right? That's going to be handled by a local government, but we are doing the plumbing. We are doing the HVAC. Local governments are also handling the electrical. And plumbing, it's really going to depend on what we might consider a rural area. Plumbing has pretty good coverage, but plumbing is designed around, especially in kind of your far stretches of eastern Kentucky, outside of Ashland and Pikeville, and in western Kentucky outside of Paducah, Owensboro, those areas, that inspector may not be in that county every single day. And that is something that we've heard, concerns about over the years. And that's not a new practice. That's been going on for many, many years, right? But I do think we on the plumbing side, we've asked for one additional inspector and one plan reviewer, both of which are in pretty busy areas. The plan reviewer in Warren County, which is the second busiest in the state in terms of residential construction, and then one inspector position up in northern Kentucky, where our guys are, quite frankly, they're just stretched too thin. If there were a big uptick in residential construction in more rural areas, I don't know that would cover it adequately so that we could maintain those services. But again, without a really solid projection of what that might look like, it's going to be difficult to say.
I appreciate what you're saying, and like you say, you don't. We just know that we're going to find some weakest links. Once we get something started, we're going to find some weaker links, and then we're going to get calls of, well, you've told us we could do this and build this, and now and like, so I serve the Warren County area part of, and I know that's a growing area, but in Allen County where I live, like the inspectors will come like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right. So you've got to hit your marks of getting somebody to there on Tuesdays, which is fine. We're not having I know the Bowling Green Warren County area is such a growing area. We have the stresses. Go ahead, sir.
The Bowling Green Warren County area is the area we're requesting the plan reviewer for. That area. It's going to be instrumental in being able to complete our task of being able to keep these projects moving. It's currently being done by a field operations manager there, and he's doing a phenomenal job. But he's getting ready to retire on us here before long, and it's going to leave us in a complete hole. One of the things that we're really trying to do is get one hired so that he can do some training before he steps away. I mean, that's the way you keep this construction moving, because, man, if he drops out right now and we ain't got nobody in place in that Bowling Green area, it's going to be really hard on us.
Yes.
You never want to be one car wreck away from anything, and I'm just saying that, or anything away from one guy walking in saying something in my life changed and I'm retiring, and that knowledge going forward is because you see a lot of different stuff, and if you've handled it before, you know how to handle it. If you don't, it can stop the whole project. So thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Let me ask you a couple questions. So how many electrical inspectors do you have statewide, and are they assigned to a territory?
Yes.
So, and electrical is a little different than some of these other areas, right?
And I understand that.
Yeah.
Electrical, because you don't necessarily use state employed
Yes, sir, that's
electrical
correct.
inspectors,
So
right? Because you have local people that are certified
Yes, sir.
in doing like temporary power, and all. Okay.
Yeah, so by and large, your local electrical inspectors are handling all of your non-state jurisdiction projects. Your state jurisdiction projects are state-owned, state-leased, and then some kind of, exceptional type projects where a local government may just not have the resources to handle it. So, the Ford plant in Glendale was an example. The state handled those electrical inspections. Just the local just didn't have the capacity, right? But we have in our employ, I think 9 currently. Let me get the exact number here. 9, yes, sir. 9 currently, and that's 9 that are covering the entirety of the state. And so, like I was saying with electrical, that's an area where we've had over a 60% increase in inspection activity since 2022. We've been able to meet the inspection demand and keep things rolling in that way. But we've not been able to kind of fulfill those other duties that those electrical inspectors have, whether it be helping out a local government, investigating a consumer complaint. And so that's where we're trying to address the concern there.
I think the biggest complaint that I've had personally in my district is building code inspections.
Mm-hmm.
Just that. Yeah, just a turnaround time to get. Is it because you lack? Now they're all the building code inspectors. Are they state employees, or do you use like contractors, so to speak, in that also?
That's a mix. So by statute, local governments have responsibility for, we'll just call them smaller buildings. Buildings typically under 100 occupants, churches I think under 400, those go to a local building inspector by default. Not every local government has a local building inspector though, and so if there's not a local building inspector and it's something other than a single family dwelling, the department fills in. But as far as plan review turnaround time, it's absolutely a manpower question. When you've got more plans coming in than you can manage with existing staff, that turnaround time goes up. If it were to slow down, which it hasn't showed any signs of doing yet, then it would go down. But we've maintained, like I said, on average between 30 and 38 days. I think we peaked at 38 days. Once we got it knocked down from that 90-day kind of nightmare back in the early 2020, it hasn't peaked above 38 days. Now, that's on initial review. And so a lot of what will happen is, a set of plans will come in, it'll get reviewed, disapproved, and then the agency may be waiting to hear back from an architect or an owner. Something may get lost in the mix. I'm not going to place blame anywhere. And so it ends up taking longer than, 38 days to get that full construction release, that full approval, but the reviews are getting turned out in that amount of time.
Okay. Sir, do you have something to add?
What I was getting ready to say as far as electrical inspectors, one of the things that really hurts us is during times of national disasters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It really puts a workload on us because these guys are pulled away to take care of these situations. And at that time, then you don't have the backup to go in and serve these other areas. So it does put us behind during those areas, right. And it is a huge workload on us.
Probably such as the tornadoes in West Kentucky, the flooding back home in 22, because they had to inspect all those temporary poles and all that stuff.
Well, and just getting everyday people's power turned back on too.
Right.
That's one of the things that we had to assist with there as well.
Okay. Any other questions by the committee? All right, fellas. Sorry. We appreciate y'all coming in today and presenting to the committee. And we've got some discussion to do on just different agency budget requests and all that. So we'll be in touch, and you all be in touch with either myself or Co-Chair McPherson if you have questions of us.
All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All right, next of all, we'll have representatives from the Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet, from the State Fair Board. You'll come up to the table, please. Thank you all for being here with us today. I know you got a lot going on up that way.
Especially next week.
So when you get seated, if you'll make sure the green light on your microphone is on, and introduce yourself, and then you may begin.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm David Beck, President and CEO of Kentucky Venues, which is the marketing brand name for the Kentucky State Fair Board.
I'm David Williams from Danville. I serve on the Fair Board and currently serve as their chairman.
Good morning. My name's Matthew Johnson. I'm currently the Chief of Staff for Kentucky Venues.
Good morning. My name's Tony Schreck, and I am the CFO for State Fair Board.
All right, thank you, and y'all may begin.
Mr. Chairman, I may also introduce Mr. Steve Kelly to my right over here, also a member of the Kentucky State Fair Board as well, is with us here this morning as well. Let me just say on behalf of our group, and each one can make some comments here, but we appreciate you inviting us to be here today to provide you an update of where we are with appropriations and renovation and buildings and all activities we've had at Kentucky Exposition Center. And we'll be glad to address those questions. I believe we present LRC with handouts in advance, and also some photos of the construction. And we also have extra copies with us here today if anybody would like to have a copy of that to look at. We'll be glad to address your questions. Let me just say that we really appreciate the investment that the members of the Kentucky General Assembly has made with the Exposition Center. That has been had a major impact. We tell each group that comes in and we speak with that a business plan was presented, you analyzed it, you looked at the potential return on investment. And as a taxpayer, we appreciate that, and that's why we feel a fiduciary responsibility to use those funds as you appropriate to best of our ability to make sure those facilities continue to operate and can be there for the next generation as well. Also, I'm pleased to say that last year, for 2025, the Kentucky Exposition Center was recognized as the busiest convention center in North America. In addition to that, you know, we also operate the convention center in downtown Louisville. Last year, it broke records as well. 2 of our months during that year was the largest ever generated for us clients coming through, with 64 new clients participating in convention center downtown. So tourism is growing. Agriculture is important, and I view all of those activities as economic development. That's how we try to approach our work. Pardon me. Last year, we had over 280 different groups come through our properties, over 5,000 visitors and guests, and with that, getting close to 100 different countries are represented. Many people, when they come to Kentucky for the first time, may be attending one of the events at our facilities. A lot of people in Frankfurt talk about the importance of tourism. Between $14 and $15 billion economic impact last year. About a third of that comes out of Louisville, Kentucky. And 15 of the top 16 events last year were held at the Kentucky Exposition Center. The only one exceeding that was the Derby, and we provide the parking for them. So it's a real partnership of everybody in our community to do the job. And as I mentioned a while ago, the National Farm Machinery Show is taking place this next week, and hopefully many of you would be able to attend. With that, I'd like to yield to our chairman, Dr. Williams, for any comments he'd like to make on behalf of our board.
Well, thank you, David. When I see you all in your position, it reminds me of serving on the Church Building and Grounds Committee. There are days that I wonder, why did I ever agree to do this? So I really appreciate what you all do to sacrifice time from your family, your business, to serve the Commonwealth in the way that you all are serving. You're truly servant leaders for Kentucky, and as a citizen, I'm grateful that we have people like you all that are willing to serve. My journey with the Fair Board began in 1958 when I slept in the West Wing with my Angus heifer as a 4-H member, showing my project animal at the expo center that commonly is referred to as the state fairgrounds. I've served on the board for a few years. I've served on the finance committee, and it continues to amaze me what it costs to maintain and operate 1.5 million square feet under roof, and thanks to the General Assembly, that number of square feet continues to grow. To host the variety of events from livestock events to volleyball and basketball, it's an amazing property with its versatility. And thanks to the support from the General Assembly, the improvements to the property continue to make the property more and more competitive to bring new business, new tourism, and new economic benefit to the Commonwealth. So we're grateful for your support. and happy to answer any questions that we may, that you may offer that we could provide answers to today.
The charts that we presented, the LRC that you have on your screens, that walks through the different appropriations that you have made as it relates to the Phase 1 building. You can see the status of those buildings. You can see the dollars being spent and still on reserve there to be utilized to finish those projects. Also, the Phase 2 building, you see those dollars appropriated there too. So we'll be glad to honor whatever you'd like to discuss with that, and we have our CFO with us here today also to help answer any specific questions. But progress is made. I'll mention this: we're ahead of schedule in construction. That could change tomorrow. We understand that. We should have the keys to the new building December of this year. And to give you an example of how that will be utilized, we're already selling that property for 27. This year's farm show is at max. All 1.2 million square feet of contiguous climate control facility is booked solid. We have a waiting list of 928 clients waiting to get in. So we know when we open the new building next year, we have this show the following year in 27, we'll be able to fill it already. So it's a pretty good business plan when you know you've got the clients and interest in doing that. This is the 60th year for that event. And even though it's one that the Commonwealth of Kentucky owns, we don't take it for granted.
Representative McPherson.
So I sure appreciate the work you all do. I was out there this I guess summer and saw the project going on and the pad being built and all the things that you've done. So you said you're on time. Are you on budget?
Representative McPherson, I'll share with you, once the legislature approved the funds and became available July 1, unfortunately, the way the process worked here in town, we weren't able to get started really until late November to December of that year. So we lost basically 6 months. The inflation has caught up with us, and some of the items we use dealing with coming overseas, all trade, all that's been tariffs have been a factor too. So we're short of dollars to finish everything. We're trying to do it where anything we do is maintenance free as much as possible. And give you the impact of that, I'm told that we have over 4,000 different trade specialist people providing the labor in that project itself. So besides the tourism side, there's other jobs associated with that. And the way the law was put together to utilize as much Kentucky people involved in the renovation as we could. So that's part of the plan and what's being utilized. But to specifically answer your question, there's not enough dollars to finish it like we'd like to. And so we're already looking at the Phase 2 appropriations, how we bridge that gap in between. One of the documents we have submitted is the Phase 3 funding. And we did add line items in there where we could go ahead and finish some of these projects to get them where they need to be financially. One of the key ones is food and beverage service, being able to do that. With 300,000 people coming through in 4 days next week, food service, timely quality food service is an issue, so we'd like to see some upgrades with that going forward. Another thing you funded is that we've added new seats to Freedom Hall. We do not have enough dollars to finish all the seating. So one of those things we've listed is additional dollars to go ahead and finish all the seat replacement in Freedom Hall. So we've done what we can with what we have, and we appreciate every dollar. And we're trying to make sure we use those dollars wisely, but it's not enough to totally do everything that was originally planned and presented to you.
So I would like to go back to the food and beverage. I saw where you all were asking maybe to take that back over. You thought it was more efficient, and y'all could, there's two ways of being efficient. One of them is, by cutting expenses, and which you're not in the position of doing a lot of that because you're at the mercy of building, and anytime you're at the mercy of doing that projects, it's hard to, it's hard to cut what you've already agreed to do. But you can look at other sources of revenue, and I think that's what you all are, I assume you all are trying to do, is look at something that you could do a better job and bring more money back in and have more control over. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. And also working with Commissioner Shell and the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, how we can be more focused on Kentucky products and utilizing our commodity groups and others in filling that need, and being able to have a better price and a better quality, and more advanced planning. When our sales team works with a client to go ahead and then determine the type of food service they're going to need, so the vendors, the concessionaires, and all can be able to do it. We have an outside caterer, OVG, that does our meals, plated meals, banquets, receptions. But the concession part is a big part of it as well. So bringing that back in under our umbrella allows us to have more control of that, pricing and quality, as well as selection of the concessionaire.
So I appreciate what you're doing, and I would just continue to urge you to be as efficient as possible. I know you are, and but we just keep speaking to efficiency and, understanding that this budget in particular is about trying to trim any waste out that we might have, and we're just going to ask each person that comes before us to make sure you're looking at every dollar and squeezing it as tight as you can. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. And I would just say that nobody does this by themselves. We're very blessed to have a good team. Our team last year worked 363 days out of the calendar year, so that's a lot of time they put into it. And we ask our people daily, I mean this in all due respect, make decisions like you own it and work like your paycheck depends on it. And 99% of the time, they'll get the right decision because they're closest to what needs to be done. Maintenance free, we realize how hard these dollars are to come by and how valuable those tax dollars are. As much maintenance free that we can employ, the better off we're going to be, because if you have 5-6 million people coming through your doors, you got to replace the carpet, you got to paint the walls, you got to have the IT support that they need to meet their expectation. So you got to look at the total picture. And if you use it, you're going to abuse it some, and you got to make sure it meets the client's expectations.
Thank you. One question from me is, you said that the money was available in July, right? But it
Yes,
took
sir.
until November to actually be able to access the money. Why is that?
Well, I'd ask our CFO, could he talk a little bit about that, if you would?
Sure. It was just more of a matter of getting DEC on board, getting the design team on board, and to start the process as far as getting a design bid out to recruit a team.
Okay.
You all know the RFP processes can take quite some
too
time,
long.
especially with the scope.
They can take too long,
Yes,
can't they?
yes, sir.
We were ready to go with a plan. We just thought it'd be quicker than that, and we didn't realize it got held up along the way through a process that has to be reviewed. And we kept inquiring and hoping we could encourage you to go ahead and get out there, because we knew that dollar, you can't buy today what you could last year with that same dollar.
Right. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you all for coming down today. And again, I'll say what I said to the last presenters. If there's a meeting that you all need to have with myself or Representative McPherson, make sure you reach out to us, and so we can talk more
Thank
in
you.
detail about budget issues.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you for your service, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, members, we have a meeting next Tuesday, 11 o'clock, here in the same room. And if there's no other comments or anything need to be made, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you for being here today.